What if I told you that your story is no longer in your hands? That while you were worrying, doubting, praying without answers, someone had already sealed your destiny. Do you think it's over? Number, it's closed. Because sometimes God doesn't say, wait. He says, it's over. But how do you know if this is your sign? What if this message here, now, was meant for you? Stay until the end. Because if you hear these words today, it's no coincidence. It's an answer. One your heart has been waiting for a long time. You prayed. You raised your hands in the privacy of your nights, when the city slept and your heart beat alone with its hopes and its wounds. You whispered words that sometimes you didn't even understand. Words that were more than requests. Words that were silent cries. Pleas for peace that you couldn't find. You waited. You waited as if waiting could change what was to come, as if your impatience could hasten the decision of the one who knows every breath before it happens. You wondered why nothing moved, why those doors remained closed, why the light you were waiting for didn't come to illuminate your path. You felt that strange emptiness, that almost tangible silence, that moment when the universe seemed to turn its back on you as you desperately clung to your hope. But what if this silence wasn't forgetting? What if this emptiness weren't a lack of response, but the most powerful sign that everything had already been decided? Your file, the file of your pain, your struggles, your unanswered prayers, has just been closed. Not by men, not by circumstances, but by Allah Himself. Imagine for a moment that every moment of doubt, every tear shed, every beat of your heart filled with fear or expectation had been observed, weighed, and understood by the one who sees all. Every trial you believed to be unjust, every disappointment that made you waver, every night you felt alone and abandoned, all of it was part of a silent, perfect, and immutable plan. In the invisible, the verdict has already been rendered. The decision has been sealed for moments your mind cannot even measure. You may think nothing has changed. You look around you and everything seems the same. But what you don't see is far more powerful than what you do. The world may seem fixed, but in the invisible realm, your destiny is written in light, indestructible and precise. And what you feel now, this strange mixture of peace and anguish, this shudder that runs through your soul, this weight and this lightness at the same time, is no accident. It is the silent response of the one who knows your heart better than you know yourself. Every sensation you ignored, every intuition you rejected, every small sign you thought went unnoticed, all of it was part of this silent response, this invisible verdict. Allah does not always speak with outbursts, voices, or visible miracles. Sometimes He seals, He decides, He closes cases in silence, and it is this very silence that becomes the greatest of signs. What you interpret as a void is actually the most powerful of yeses. Perhaps you were impatient. Perhaps you believed that time was against you, that divine justice was delayed, that your heart was mistaken and still hoping. But it wasn't forgetfulness. It wasn't a delay. It was the precision of the one who never errs. Every minute of doubt, every breath of waiting, every moment you felt ignored, everything had a role. Everything was preparing your mind to receive this truth, to accept that what you thought were obstacles were actually protections, that what you considered delays were signs that the exact moment had not yet come, and that what you are waiting for has already been decided. And if you close your eyes, just for a moment, and listen to your heart, you might feel that strange calm settling in, that silent certainty flowing through you. This is not coincidence. This is not a simple feeling. It is the whisper of the invisible, the silent voice of the one who has already said, "It is closed." You don't see it with your eyes, but your soul feels it. It knows it. And what you feel now is the first spark of what is to come. Perhaps you thought your case remained open, that life was unfair, that the world had forgotten your struggle. But Allah never forgets. Every pain, every battle, every moment when you thought everything was falling apart has been recorded, understood, evaluated. And in that precise moment, something within you begins to transform. Invisible certainty begins to dispel doubt. Peace begins to replace anguish, and a silent force begins to tell you, your case is closed. Everything is already decided. And now, in this silence, in this strange feeling of calm in the midst of uncertainty, you begin to realize that what you thought was a lack, a void, or an absence is actually a sign that your path is mapped out, that the answers are already given, that what you have been waiting for so long is no longer up to you, but that you must be ready to receive it at the exact moment that Allah allows it. One day, without you realizing it, a moment so subtle that you could have missed it if you hadn't been attentive to your own heart. That day, Allah said, enough. Enough of these nights spent crying for what was never meant to be yours. Enough of chasing things that were meant to move away, like shooting stars you think you can catch, but disappear into the darkness. Enough of doubting what was already granted to you, what was promised to you in the unseen. That day, something inside you stopped. Perhaps the momentum with which you pursued your desires. Perhaps the illusion that you could control everything. Or perhaps this endless stream of questions that tormented your mind. Why me? Why not now? Why this silence? But that wasn't the end. No, it wasn't the end, even if your heart felt that way for a moment. It was the exact point where your soul had to learn to let go, where it had to understand that some doors close not to punish you, but to protect you. And often, you don't immediately understand why, because the wisdom of the invisible is silent and subtle, and only reveals itself over time. That day, you felt a halt. Perhaps in your ambitions, perhaps in your relationships, perhaps in that project or promise you thought you were keeping. Everything seemed frozen. The world continued around you, but inside you, a strange pause had imposed itself, as if the universe itself had held its breath. It is a moment when faith and doubt collide, when the heart understands that it cannot continue chasing what is not for it, and when the soul begins to perceive the presence of the one who holds the keys to everything. And yet, it was not abandonment. It was not a rejection of your prayers, your efforts, your dreams. It was an act of divine protection, an invisible hand gently closing certain doors, directing you towards what is truly meant for you. Every loss, every silence, every no encountered that day was a silent message. I heard you, but not yet, and not in this way. Perhaps you remember that strange feeling, that mixture of pain and relief, that confusion as you wondered, am I losing something? Or am I gaining something I cannot yet see? This is precisely the beauty of the divine plan. Because what you believe to be an end, what you interpret as a failure or an injustice, is often the beginning of a silent rearrangement of your destiny. Every closure, every apparent rejection, every perceived failure was an act of care, an invisible reorganization orchestrated by the one who is never wrong. And in that precise moment, you learned to recognize something rare, the calm that comes after the storm, even before it disappears. You learned that sometimes the world around you has to stop so that you can stop. That sometimes inner storms have to take over before you can truly understand the direction of your path. That sometimes the silence of certain closed doors is the strongest proof that God protects what you don't yet know you desire and what you don't yet have the strength to receive.
And in that moment of pause, your heart began to feel something it had never truly felt before. The silent certainty that what had been taken from you could not bring you the peace you sought. That what you believed to be a loss was actually a liberation. That what you thought was a rejection was actually a subtle, invisible, perfect act of love. And that the emptiness you felt was not a lack, but a sacred space left for something better to enter. You understood, even if only in an inner whisper, that every trial, every loss, every night of doubt had been laid down to prepare you for this very day. The day everything stopped. The day you finally realized that chasing certain things was pointless. Because they weren't for you, that day you began to feel, in the silence of your soul, the presence of the one who controls time, doors, outcomes, and destinies. And it was in this breathless pause, in this pause imposed by the invisible, that your heart began to glimpse a concept few understand. Sometimes, the closing of a path is the most beautiful opening you can be given. What you thought was lost was never truly for you. What you thought was necessary was never what would bring you peace. And what you thought was a failure was perhaps the most divine act of protection Allah could perform for you, even before you were ready to receive it. But you don't fully know it yet. And that's exactly where this story continues. Where the invisible is preparing something your mind cannot yet conceive, but which your soul is beginning to sense. What you call a loss isn't. What you call an injustice isn't. And that prayer you think was ignored wasn't an oversight. It was a door locked for your good, even if your heart struggles to understand why. Look within yourself for a moment. Feel the invisible scars life has left on your soul. All those wounds you thought were useless. All those shattered dreams you believed were failures. They were actually silent acts of divine protection. Every moment you thought you were falling. Every moment you thought the world was turning its back on you. Every painful breath you took was shaping a stronger, more conscious version of yourself, closer to what Allah intended for you. God took away what you wanted, not to punish you, but to give you what you needed. And that's hard to understand, isn't it? How can you accept that a bleeding heart, a doubting mind, and a weary soul could be receiving exactly what they were meant to receive? It is in this tension, in this paradox, that the beauty of divine guidance lies. You believed that failure meant your prayers were unheard, that your efforts were in vain. But true failure is never losing what wasn't meant for you. True failure would be never understanding that liberation sometimes comes disguised as loss. That what you believe to be a detour, a delay, a punishment, is often the invisible hand of Allah protecting you from what could have harmed you, even if you don't yet see it. Feel for a moment that strange calm that sometimes comes over you after an inner storm. You know, that moment when everything seems suspended, when you no longer have control, but when something within you begins to relax, to release. It is faith taking an invisible form. It's not a blazing fire or a light that blinds you. It's a silent, subtle breath. A whisper in your soul that says what was meant to go is gone, and what was meant to stay remains. Think of all those times you wept silently, when you placed your hands on your heart in supplication, when you waited without an answer. All of it was not lost. Your inner struggle, all those nights you prayed through tears, all those efforts to change what could not be changed. All of it was not in vain. Every tear was a tool, every pain a guide, every disappointment a message. And that's when you begin to understand a profound truth. Sometimes the greatest blessing is invisible. Sometimes the greatest deliverance doesn't look like what you imagined. You believed you wanted certain things, certain people, certain results. And Allah, with His perfect wisdom, removed these illusions to preserve you. because what you wanted could have distracted you from what you were truly meant to receive. Now look around you in the subtle details of your daily life. You may see signs you were previously unaware of. That chance encounter, that unexpected word, that moment of silence that soothed you. All of it was part of the journey your soul was meant to travel. All of it was a silent reminder. Withdrawal is not rejection. Loss is not failure. Emptiness is not absence. You have not failed. You have been set free. Freed from what could have broken you, from what could have led you astray, from what could have clouded your faith and your heart. Freed from the illusion that you could control everything, that you could plan everything, that you could deserve everything according to your timing. True liberation, the kind that touches the soul, doesn't come from what you win or lose, but from what God takes away to protect you, what He keeps to guide you, and what He hides so that your heart doesn't wear itself out in useless battles. And now, close your eyes for a moment and listen to your own heart. Can you feel that calm? That subtle breath moving through you, reminding you that you are not alone, that everything you've experienced has a reason, even if it still eludes you. It is the whisper of the invisible, proof that every pain, every effort, every expectation had a purpose. Every apparent failure was a piece of a divine puzzle, every detour an invisible direction toward what is truly for you. So breathe deeply. Feel this moment. Feel this liberation. And even if your heart still bleeds, even if your mind still doubts, even if your soul still cries for what was lost, know that this pain is becoming the soil of your strength, that this emptiness is becoming the springboard for your growth, and that every difficult moment you have lived through has prepared you for the peace and guidance that await you just beyond what you can see now.
Imagine a heavy, dense sky, saturated with clouds that seem to weigh on every breath. Imagine that each cloud is a weight your heart has accumulated. Every doubt, every hurt, every silence you believed was forgotten. You believe the falling rain is there to punish you, that each cold drop is a reprimand for your unanswered prayers. But if you look deeper, you will understand that this rain does not destroy, it purifies. It washes away what prevents you from seeing clearly, what obscures your mind, what makes your dreams blurry and your steps hesitant. Your soul also goes through these storms. You have felt, deep within you, these inner tempests that make your heart tremble and prevent you from breathing normally. Those nights when you thought you were alone, those moments when fear and doubt seemed to want to engulf you. It was not abandonment. It was the silent preparation for a clarity you couldn't yet achieve. And in those moments, you don't need to see the light. You don't need to feel it on your face or understand everything that's happening to you. You just need to know that it exists, somewhere behind the clouds, even if the wind and rain make you believe otherwise. Because the light never shows itself to those who expect to see it immediately. It reveals itself to those who continue to walk in the fog, with faith, with patience, with that fragile but persistent breath that says, I know you are there. Every pain you feel, every trial that crushes you, every broken heart you cry, these are proofs. Proof that God is working in your silence. Proof that the divine plan is moving forward, even when you think nothing is happening. You don't see the movement behind the clouds, but it exists. It shapes your mind. It purifies your soul. It prepares you for something greater than anything you could have imagined. Feel the rain on your face for a moment, not as a burden, but as a reminder that not everything that falls is meant to harm you. Every drop that touches your skin, every breath of wind that rushes through your hair, it is a healing breath. Your heart unloads, frees itself, prepares to receive what was already intended for it from eternity. Now imagine the soaked ground after the storm. Everything seems dark, wet, as if life itself has slowed down.
But look closer. The water that has flowed nourishes the earth. It prepares the seeds to grow, even if you cannot yet see the buds. Your soul is this earth, the rain, your trials. And soon, the light will break through, and what seemed barren will transform into an unexpected garden, filled with life and promise. Every shadow you pass through has a specific purpose. Every cloud has been wisely placed by the one who knows your heart better than you know yourself. Sometimes the shadow is so thick that you think it will never dissipate. But it is exactly this contrast that will allow you to recognize the light when it comes. Without the shadow, you will never know how precious, how gentle, how healing the light is. And what you feel now, this heaviness in your mind, this hesitation in your step, this restlessness in your heart, all of this is a sign, a subtle reminder that you are going through what many call tests, but that you, your soul, feels it as an invisible transformation. It's not just about surviving the rain or the storm. It's about understanding that every tear, every short breath, every fear faced is a silent preparation. A preparation for your heart, mind, and soul to welcome a light you never imagined. And it's there, in this mixture of rain, wind, and silence, that the transformation begins. You don't need to understand now. You don't need to see the result. You just need to keep walking, breathing, and having faith. Because behind every cloud, behind every cold drop that hits you, behind every minute when you feel like you're no longer moving forward, hides the light that will find you at exactly the right moment. And that's exactly where this story continues. Where your heart begins to sense that what seems like an end is actually a passage to what you've been waiting for all your life. Even if you can't see it yet. You've been asking yourself this question for days, weeks, maybe even years. But if my case is closed, what should I do now? You think you still have dozens of choices to make, paths to chart, decisions to impose on life. You feel this weight on your shoulders, this worry that prevents you from breathing fully. You believe you must act, try, control. But listen to me carefully and listen to your heart. It's no longer in your hands. Nothing depends on you. Nothing, absolutely nothing. What was meant to go is gone. What was meant to stay will remain. What you've been waiting for, what your soul has prayed for so long, will come. Not when you decide, not according to your timing, not according to your human understanding, but exactly when God allows it, exactly when the moment is perfect. And the best part is, it will come quietly, effortlessly, without struggle. You're tempted to think, so what should I do with my life? What should I do with my energy? This is where you must understand the truth many forget. Your role is not to force destiny. Your role is not to scream, to beg louder, or to chase after what you cannot grasp. Your role is to be ready. Ready to receive, ready to understand, ready to embrace what has been prepared for you. Ready to stand when Allah says, "Now it's your turn." Breathe for a moment. Feel the air moving in and out of your body. Each breath is a reminder that you are alive, that you have been guided this far, and that nothing is lost. You have weathered storms. You have cried in silence. You have waited in the unseen. And all of it was not in vain. Every struggle, every trial, every detour has prepared your heart for this very moment. Even if you don't see it yet, even if your mind doubts, even if your soul feels weary, all of this has been orchestrated so that you are exactly where you need to be. You are tempted to want to control every detail of your existence, to predict every outcome, to secure every result. But the profound truth your soul must hear today is this. Total trust, absolute surrender, is where true freedom resides. When you understand that what must be cannot be prevented, and what must not be cannot happen, then your heart finally breathes, and your mind finds peace. So what do you do now? You observe, you listen, you stand tall in silence. Even when everything around you seems uncertain, you continue to live, to smile, to work, to love, but without the heaviness of anxiety or doubt. You are aware that every step, every breath, every smile is an act of silent preparation for what the invisible has planned for you. And if you still feel the weight of questions, what ifs, regrets, or fears, let them go. Let them dissolve in the breath of faith. Every worry you willingly let go of creates space in your soul for what God wants to give you. What you believe to be a lack or a delay is actually just a gateway to a greater, brighter revelation, more aligned with what your heart truly desires, even if you don't know it yet. Silently repeat it to your mind, your heart, your soul. It's not in my hands. It's not up to me to force destiny. I'm preparing. I'm ready. When the moment comes, I will know how to welcome it. And feel the effect these words have on your body, on your heart, on your breath. Let this certainty seep into every cell of your being, because it is real. Because it has always been there, even if your human mind has struggled to see it. You may still be afraid. You may still have doubts. But what you must understand now, what your soul has long wanted to hear, is that you have nothing to prove, nothing to force, nothing to control. Everything you believed you could achieve through struggle or willpower will happen through divine wisdom. And what happens when it happens will surpass anything you could have planned or imagined. So stay alert, stay patient, stay upright even while waiting. Because that moment when God says, "Now it's your turn," that moment is near, and your soul feels it. Sometimes you think God no longer speaks. You listen, you wait, you scrutinize the signs and the answers, but all you perceive is a heavy, almost suffocating silence. You feel as if your prayers have been lost in the void, as if every breath you offered, every tear you shed, every moment of faith you held fast has been for nothing. You wonder why nothing changes, why this strange calm leaves you alone with your doubts, and why you don't hear what you've been waiting for so long. But this silence, however heavy, is never empty. It is filled with meaning that the human eye, the human mind, cannot perceive. God acts in a language the world does not understand, that of calm. This calm that follows the storms, struggles, pain, the nights when your soul cries out without response. This calm is not abandonment. This calm is a silent testimony that the decision has already been made, that the judgment has been pronounced, and that what was meant to happen will happen at exactly the perfect time, in the perfect form, and according to perfect wisdom. Your heart, still restless, still doubting, begins to feel something you cannot always explain in words. This subtle peace, this breath that flows through you, this sensation that even if everything around you seems uncertain, everything is exactly as it should be. Your heart is silent because the divine decision has already been pronounced. This silence is not an absence. This silence is an invisible, palpable presence, but one that only those who stop to listen can feel. And if you are seeing this video today, it is not a coincidence. It is not chance. This message came to you, to your soul, at this precise moment, because you needed to hear it, because you needed to feel that the plan never forgot you, even when the world seemed to turn its back on you. It's a subtle but powerful reminder your case is closed. Peace is coming. But what does that really mean? It means that all the wounds you carry, all the nights you cried silently, all the times you thought you were being ignored, have been observed, heard, weighed with infinite wisdom. It means that what you thought was a delay, an unanswered question, or an injustice was just part of the process. An invisible element preparing your soul to receive what it truly deserves. It means that every doubt, every fear, every question that haunted you wasn't ignored. It was understood. Imagine your heart like an ocean after a storm. The waves calm, the waters settle, the surface becomes smooth. You think nothing is happening, that the silence is empty. But in reality, the depths are moving, invisible, powerful, orchestrated with a precision that you, on the surface, cannot measure. Your soul is that sea. Your silence is the calm surface. And what you don't yet see is the force that shapes everything that comes, exactly as it should. What you feel now, this strange calm in the midst of the past storm, is an invitation. An invitation to abandon fear, doubt, and futile struggle. An invitation to let your mind and heart rest, to trust in the one who knows your needs better than you yourself, and to feel that even in the invisible, you are guided, protected, and heard. And this is where the beauty of divine silence is revealed. It speaks not through outbursts or visible miracles, but through the experience you live, through the invisible transformation taking place in your soul. He doesn't tell you what to do or when. He doesn't tell you how each situation will be resolved. He shows you, in patience, in waiting, in the calm after the chaos, that everything is under control, that your case is closed, that you can finally breathe, even if only for a few moments, even if only in the privacy of your heart. So when you feel alone, when you feel like everything is frozen, when the world seems silent and your heart cries out in silence, listen to that invisible voice. Feel that invisible presence. Feel that silent certainty flowing through you. You are heard. You are being watched. You are being guided. Your case is closed. And now, in this breath, in this calm, in this silence that is never empty, your soul begins to sense what is next. What is to come exceeds your expectations. What is to come has been prepared since forever in the invisible details, in the subtle movements of the invisible, in the wisdom that you can still only perceive with your heart. And it's here that your soul remains suspended in this silent but meaningful wait, aware that the best is yet to come, even if you can't see it yet. You've waited a long time. You've searched for signs, for proof, for answers. And today, God answered you without question. Your case is closed. Your chapter is over. And the next one begins here. If these words touched your heart, don't let them fade. Share this reminder, because there may be another soul somewhere who needs to hear God has not forgotten your name.